Hey everybody, it's Erik Torenberg, co-founder, partner of Village Global, a network-driven venture firm. And this is Venture Stories, a podcast covering topics relating to tech and business with world-leading experts. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Venture Stories by Village Global. I'm here today with two very special guests, repeat guest and repeat co-host Riva-Melissa Tez, a strategy at Intel, and co-founder CEO of Numerai, Richard Craib. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here.
Hello.
Because Richard is too honest, or too modest rather, Riva, why don't you introduce Richard and Numerai and why you got so excited about the company?
Well, I would say that Numerai puts the edge and fun into hedge funds. I'll sell you that one if you want that one. How's that sound?
That's very good.
Richard, I know it's pretty descriptive. What would you add to that?
Well, the basics of Numerai is that it's the first hedge fund to give away all of its data and allow anyone around the world to model that data for free using machine learning. And then those people around the world provide predictions to the fund that we then trade in a global equity long-short strategy.
Yeah. I feel like Numerai was one of the last legit ICO.
It was the last good idea, I thought you were going to say.
Yeah. You didn't do an ICO?
No, it wasn't an ICO. We did create a token.
Okay.
And we gave it away to our users. And doing it that way was much better because it ended up in the hands of people who were likely to use it. Using cryptocurrency is quite niche at the moment. Only, very few sophisticated people can do it. So it was much better to give it away.
How's that worked out? That was 2 years ago?
Yeah, that was just over 2 years ago. It was one of the first Ethereum tokens. We announced it back when Ether was trading at about $5.
Right.
And since then, it made some of our users millionaires and also has been used tens of thousands of times since we released it.
So what are people using it for?
Staking.
What?
They stake cryptocurrency. They stake it, the token, on their predictions. So the big problem with kind of crowdsourcing predictions is you could make 1,000 accounts and hope that one of them works. But if you're forced to put money on the line, you're going to be much more careful about what you provide to us. And so what tends to happen is the people who are willing to stake cryptocurrency have much, much higher predictive power than the other people. And so we can use those to trade in our strategy and know that the people who provided those predictions also have skin in the game.
Right. And what types of things are they predicting or staking?
They're predicting about 5,000 publicly traded companies around the world.
So it's like, I think Amazon's going to be even bigger tomorrow than I'm going to...
Yeah, but there's one trick with Numerai is that all of the data is totally obfuscated. So the users have no idea what they're predicting on. They have no idea what the data is. And therefore, all they're doing is kind of finding patterns in the data. And once they have that, they provide predictions, and they don't know what those predictions are. Only we can know.
That's interesting. So they don't know what companies they're betting on.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because if you want to have people...
I've been thinking we could do venture capital that way, but maybe...
Yeah. First, the one thing is if you give someone something abstract and obfuscated, they can't impose their own biases. They can't be like, I really like Apple because I like the iPhone 6, whatever. They can't do that. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, if we give the data away in raw form, the users could just run off with it and start their own hedge funds. And that would kind of break the system and the idea of it, which is that people take the data, they model it, and they give back. So like they're giving us predictions, we're giving us data. They don't know what the data is. We don't know what their models are because they keep their models on their own computers. So it all kind of like makes it make sense.
Yeah. And these are just talented data scientists that try to make a quick buck.
Well, data scientists are very interested in new data science problems, and they like difficult ones. And the stock market really is the most difficult game. It's structured that way. There's thousands of smartest people in the world trying to model it. Yeah. So if you can find an edge on numerized data, then you're really good at data science. If you can make a credit card fraud detection algorithm at a startup or something, probably just decent at data science.
So if we had, other real, hedge fund managers right here in this room, what's their opinion on Numerai?
There are a lot of pieces to it that are confusing to people. So, for example, if you're a hedge fund manager who kind of barely heard of machine learning, that's a big hurdle for you to understand Numerai. If you're a hedge fund manager that's barely understood Bitcoin, that's a big hurdle. But typically, when you kind of have both of those things, it seems like a really good idea. But if you don't have that, it seems like a bad idea.
I mean, to be honest, if you're a hedge fund manager and you don't know about Bitcoin or machine learning, then you're not probably a very good hedge fund manager.
You should see. You should see. There's lots of different kinds of hedge funds out there, and some of them aren't quantitative. And a lot of people in finance, like Warren Buffett and JP Morgan, have all these very concrete views on Bitcoin, but it's very clear they've never even moved a Bitcoin from one wallet to another. So,
do you consider Numerai a prediction market or inspired by a prediction market?
No, I don't think it is. I mean, we're buying predictions, but prediction markets are kind of like ways to trade on information that you have. Yeah. But Numerai is kind of very different to that.
It's like prediction garage sale. I'm just kidding.
It's more like a data science market, kind of.
And how do you go back to like how you thought about the idea and how you thought about this would be the unique sort of angle of attack with this type of technology or this type of wisdom of crowds versus sort of some other element of finance?
Well, I was a quant. So after I graduated, I studied mathematics and I ended up taking some machine learning after that in 2012, when machine learning was starting to get very interesting and you had different breakthroughs in computer vision. And I decided to learn it and then apply it as a quant. And I managed to find a few patents that worked extremely well. And at that same time was reading about Ethereum and other things like that. And so I kind of put that all together.
Yeah.
Trendsetter.
Yeah.
And so how have you dealt with sort of the crypto sort of, boom and bust cycle? Like how does Numerai fare that? Because you were one of the hottest crypto start, like a company actually using a token in a way that made sense.
Yeah, it definitely was a very strange thing to be involved with. As a hedge fund manager, we are looking for patterns where, we can make, if we could make 10% a year reliably, then that's an amazing hedge fund. And in crypto, people started talking about making 10x, but every month, and it's never going to end. And it was like really scary to see how people got sucked into it. And you had people with, again, the sort of like really, really high in the sort of top 1% of people who understand computer science, but really like in the bottom 10 percentile of people who understood finance. And you had quite a few of those people who got badly hurt.
Do you think where do you think the crypto ecosystem is right now? Does that relate to you at all? Or you just, I'm building my business?
Well, it does in that we really like paying our users in cryptocurrency. We need them to hold the cryptocurrency in order to stake. And so both of those things, mean like we would prefer more liquidity in the overall market and higher average prices. But we also like stability and like sanity. And so that's also, right now where things are, I don't think it's so bad for us.
Is it entirely autonomous, or do humans augment sort of the predictions that you purchase?
All of the predictions that we trade right now are generated by our users. And there is at the end a risk layer kind of model, which is really just like an optimizer. All of the alpha comes from the outside, and all of it's using machine learning. So I don't actually know. I couldn't tell you one stock we hold or are short right now.
Right. Could you imagine a different Numerai where the companies were exposed, and so you were asking less for data scientists and more for people who had like inside information on those companies, like someone who worked at Amazon or something? Or maybe it's insider trading. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or expertise in other areas.
Well,
Like, would prediction markers for stocks work?
yeah, I do think so. So we did, it would be great if, one thing people can't do on Numerai is bring their own data. They have to use the data we give them, which has some advantages, but it would also be good if you had some very specific data on technology companies or something like that, and you had signals that like worked very well in that sector. It would be cool if there were a way to give those to Numerai and allow us to trade on those insights. So that's why we've started a new protocol called Erasure, which is actually live on mainnet as of today. It's really simple. It's just generalizing the thing that we noticed with staking of NMR, the NMR token on Numerai. If people stake money on information, that information is likely to be more valuable. And the weird thing about the internet is you have all this information, but there's no money attached to it. So you have no idea what you can trust. If you make people stake, you can not only say, well, it seems like someone trusts this. You can even see how much money they've put down on that piece of information. So Erasure is broadly taking that as far as you can go. And could you have an information marketplace where people could sell arbitrary information on anything? And they stake it to prove that they believe in it, which means it's going to be more likely to attract a buyer. So for example, if you were to say you have a bunch of dirt on Epstein, and you would send me an email and say, I have this dirt on Jeffrey Epstein, would you like to buy it? I'd be like, first of all, I can't trust you. I don't know who you are. Even if I pay for it, how do I know you'll even send me the right file? But if you said, hey, I have some information on Jeffrey Epstein, I've staked $100 on it, and you don't have to trust me. You can go look at the blockchain and see, there it is. It's staked with $100. And by the way, if you buy this from me, I'll give you the right to destroy my stake if I don't give you what you're looking for. And suddenly, normal situation where we can trust each other now because of the blockchain and the Erasure protocol, now we can. Now we can start transacting this information. That's an amazing thing. And I think there's a lot of broken, it's like information underbelly where there's certain things you can sell credibly. Like if you're Apple or a big company with a big brand like Bloomberg, you can sell financial data because you're Bloomberg and you have this brand. But if you don't have a brand and you're just an anonymous internet user with a bunch of Epstein photographs, then, what are you going to do to give yourself some reputation? And we think the answer is staking it.
Are you going to pick like a industry first to try and get onboarded on an Erasure, or just see who uses it?
Well, we have the particular interest in stock market stuff. So we've created an application called Erasure Quant, which is going live soon. Probably by the time you're listening to this, it's live. And it's a way to upload stock market information and signals. But will be other generic use cases. And I do think information to do with kind of like, interesting things to do with journalism or whistleblowing, those kinds of things could be really good use cases.
Let's use some example use cases, like using dirt on Epstein. Like I have dirt on this journalist, this journalist has dirt on me, or is it dirt basically? Would you call dirt protocol?
I think there is a dirt protocol actually.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah,
it's blackmail.
It's anything you might want. So you could also, thinking of examples like, I need someone to go through my Twitter feed or Twitter used followers and find anyone who's an engineer because I'm looking to hire engineers. And someone puts together a list of 100 engineers and they email me and they say, hey, I've done this job and I've staked it. Do you want to buy it? And okay, cool. Now I've crowdsourced this annoying job, and that same kind of thing could be applied to anything.
What about insider trading?
Well, yeah, insider trading. For any hedge fund, they have to be very careful about where they buy their data because it needs to be publicly available. And if you use inside information that no one else has, and then you're going to get in trouble. So on Erasure, it's a protocol, so anybody can use it for anything, but it's not going to be possible to sell insider trading style information to Numerai, for example, or really any hedge fund doesn't want to break the law. So that will be basically, yeah.
But you could sell it to like a private user though. Like if I wanted to trade on information, could I not do that?
Well, if you wanted to, for example, say I'm looking for insider information on Apple, I want to know Apple's earnings before time. You could technically post that. We would not promote that. That post would not land up on our website, but it would land up on the blockchain. Similarly, like, if we'd invented email and you used email for insider trading, which a lot of people do, we can't really stop you.
Say more about insider trading, both of you. Like, does that make sense? If we could change that, would we? I don't know if you initially comment on that, Richard. Blinked 3 times. But like, what's the thinking behind that? Because as a capitalist, a lot of insider information on certain companies, and then I trade on that information, and that's alpha. Why would we punish people?
Yeah, I think it is important. I think in the public markets, the reason I think if you reran American history without those laws or without the SEC at all, you would not have got the amazing capital markets that the US has today. So I think it's very important because you want also, like, if you were an individual trader and you knew you were participating in a market where there was a lot of insider trading going on, then you would stop participating. You would be like, man, my edge is probably really weak. I'm not going to be successful in this market. So you'd stop trading. And so liquidity would kind of dry up. It would be like, man, am I the only one who doesn't know all the inside information? So
do you think it's true though? A lot of people want to be venture capital or angel investors. They don't know shit. If you lower the accreditor investor status, a lot more people would invest in companies.
No, I don't think so. That's separate. If you lower the accredited investor status, yeah, I think more people would invest in companies. But if it was well understood that, imagine, say you're in like the middle of nowhere and you don't have access to the internet and your job is to invest in Silicon Valley companies. Right. You wouldn't have an edge, and you would know you don't because you're deeply not an insider.
Do you think it's self-evident that people are that humble about their knowledge of what they do or don't know?
Even if they're not, they get killed.
Yeah.
So over time, it kind of ends up like that. So I do think, and even as a hedge fund, like, we don't participate in markets that are like totally wrecked because of insider trading or other problems. So for sure, these things are important. And there can be a difference. Like, you can have public markets and private markets. Like, okay, there's one market where you don't have to have these laws and there's one that you do. And I think that seems like a fair trade.
So you're pro the SEC?
I'm very pro the SEC. It doesn't mean they're not going to make mistakes in the future. It doesn't mean they're going to be as good as they were in the 20th century. It's a shame they didn't catch Bernie Madoff. I think that was a easy one. But I do think that the financial regulations in the US have been pretty good, but it's probably, it's always a pendulum swinging back and forth.
So erasure?
Yeah.
Erasure is for me to put bounties. I want X done, or I'm staking this opinion. Is it if I think Donald Trump is going to win in 2020, or Elizabeth Warren or whoever, do I stake that?
No, not really, because you would trade that. If you think, why do you think it? Because you have some sort of like set of things happening in your brain that makes you think that. But if you had information, I have information that is very particularly interesting for this next election. Would you like to buy it? Then that's the kind of thing erasure is for. So you're thinking about augurs like prediction market, where you have this private information and you express it by trading around an augur. Right. In erasure, you have this information and you express it by selling the information itself.
And what if it's like, hey, I got dirt on Richard, and then someone buys it, and I'm like, see, did you like the dirt? And they're like, what is this? It's not dirt. Or there's a dispute over
Then you can do what's called griefing, where you basically have the right to destroy the stake.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that little piece of enforcement is kind of all you need in a lot of cases. Even if you and I made a contract on the side in real life, one of the reasons I can expect you to honor the contract is because you know that there's a threat that I might sue you if you don't honor the contract. That doesn't mean that every time I make a contract, I sue you. But the threat, the sort of like looming possibility that I may grief you, may sue you, is enough to kind of make societies work and have lots of contracts be honored.
Okay, so let's say I have some information on you, and I've met with Riva, and Riva says, hey, that's not that interesting. I'm like, but it was interesting. There's a dispute, and she grieves it. Or should she be a bad actor and just grieve things unnecessarily, or would we just give each other 0 to 5 stars, and that's the punishment for both of us? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally her discretion. So you might give this very good information. She decides to grief you anyway. And that's the cost of doing business. That's a little bit like you got involved with the lawsuit and the judge was mean to you.
There are examples like there's a user of Augur called Poyo, which is what my cat's named after, who is making bad markets and, getting money off the fees and stuff like that. But eventually it's like you start to recognize those actions and then they get policed out by the community, right? And you can change your name and do different things, but you have there's historical evidence for that. So
yes,
it does happen.
How do you think about identity and reputation on their show? And pseudonym.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really big deal. I mean, if you can know that an internet account is a person, it changes what you can do. But I think reputation, it seems like something really good for blockchain, being permanent. But I think connecting it with money is also very important. And so, because you can't really know that a blockchain address is a person, by putting money there, you're kind of like, okay, at least the guy's got
sounds
money.
like an ad for earn.com.
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
It's just the idea of combining, identity and money. I was like, all right.
No, it's not similar at all.
No, it's not.
Well, what is Earn? I mean, isn't it just right now? It's just a way to.
It's stupid.
Well, Earn's vision.
What's Earn's vision?
So people can earn money on the internet doing tasks using cryptocurrency.
I thought it was like a way to get people to open your email.
That was the first product.
Yeah,
they changed it.
Well,
now you can.
I'm an Earn apologist. It shows that was a long-term vision, and I think on Coinbase they achieved something.
Well, yeah, I think on Coinbase I've earned $1 by watching a YouTube video about 0x or something like that, or DAI. Yeah. We're not really trying to get people to, I guess.
You're not doing TaskRabbit?
No, not even close. Yeah, maybe it sounds like it.
It's a mixture of Earn.com and TaskRabbit.
Maybe it sounds like it. I mean,
it doesn't.
But the boundaries are not going to be like, wait for me in line, or the engineer example is that the common use case, or is that sort of the fringe use case?
I really don't know what the use cases are going to be.
Yeah, you're just going to build it.
Yeah.
Are people doing that? Isn't that what Gitcoin's doing? When they're doing engineering bounties?
Yeah, they were.
They're not doing that anymore?
I think they are.
Oh.
Yeah, but I think what's different is
yours is more about information than about a real world action, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, and again, it's not like, I don't know whether someone putting something up and saying, hey, we're requesting this data is the main thing. It could be more that, hey, I have this data. Right. Another example maybe is like, I have a bunch of my own healthcare data, DNA and things like that, MRI scan. I could put that up on Erasure and be like, does anyone want to buy this for $100?
Right.
I do.
Yeah. This is a similar sort of general mission to Numerai and to the broader crypto space generally, but it is somewhat of a different product. And so, how do you think, why build this as related, or how do you conceive it?
Yeah, well, we needed the protocol basically because we already have 2 apps that use it. Numerai uses staking and griefing. Erasure Quant, which is to crowdsource quant signals, is for Numerai. It's a product for us to buy quant signals. That's also using staking and griefing. So now we're just like, well, we've literally written everything for this. And there's so many other things that could use it. And there's so few applications of blockchain that have taken off. And ours actually has, even with this niche user base. So we think by opening it up to general purpose kind of applications is going to be a big deal.
What's your dream situation in 5 years?
For Erasure.
For everything.
For everything.
This is why you come on a podcast.
Because I remember a quote from you in the Financial Times that was a few years ago that stated what's the end game, What is the end game?
I want to manage all the money in the world. I want that, you know, the 50% of American undergraduates who work in consulting and finance stop doing that. You know, you don't need half the smart people playing in a zero-sum tournament and getting jobs on Wall Street and at McKinsey and things like that. It's all fake and everybody knows it's fake, but there is this kind of like dark pattern in capitalism where people are being sucked in that direction. If you could have everybody work for Elon Musk and then on the weekend do Numerai tournaments and stuff on Erasure, that would be an amazing 5-year outcome.
I've been curious by this idea I've heard on the internet called idea markets, where basically say, hey, I think this is going to be big, and if you like sort of state based on like, prediction markets are this will be true or not true. This is just I think this is going to be big, or I think this is a meme that should spread, or sort of like we have a stake on different ideas. Sort of stock market for ideas have those rise and falls.
Like even business ideas or anything. Markets for everything.
Yes.
Markets for everything is great. I love that. We should have markets for everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it'll be nice to have liquid markets for everything, and a lot of these things wouldn't be liquid. I don't know. I don't have any view on that.
Why wouldn't they do that? Because you need people betting on that?
Yeah, if it were things like the price of a meme or something. I don't know.
Dogecoin is pretty big.
If you could make prediction markets better, what would you do? The ones that already exist, like Guesser and how about Veil? What do you think of them?
What do I think of Veil? Veil is a good example of a crypto project that just sort of like didn't work.
Really?
Yeah, they've just like sunsetted it. And I think the reason for that is a lot of the best ideas come from like a place of vision. And you have things like Augur, where it was like all the ideas around it came from a kind of pre-crypto world. So they weren't like being derivative. And so they had more of a philosophy and a vision. But now you have these crypto startups. It's like, we have no idea what to do. We're good at software. We don't want to work for Google. So we start a crypto project.
They should all just be Numerai users. We should create like a cemetery of like failed startup people who are really smart. They should all just go make more money by staking on Numerai.
That's probably, yeah. I think any time an entrepreneur asks me to invest in a company, I should just be like, no. Yeah. Go work for Numerai.
Go earn it. Yeah. I'll help you earn it.
Yeah, go to earn.com.
Oh man. Okay, Richard, do you think we're going to go into a recession?
Yeah, it does feel like we're closer to the top than a bottom. Really? But, you know, I don't really follow the markets.
You do or don't?
No.
You don't? Why?
Well, let's not get political here. But,
oh, Trump.
We can take it out if you don't want.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just think there's the leftist media really wants there to be a recession. So it's more of like a fight between if they can make it happen because it makes Trump look really bad. And this is irrelevant to my political views, but I think that it's a tug of war between the two. But I don't think it's necessary from the financial markets that will cause it to happen. If you want a recession to happen, you need everyone to believe that there's going to be a recession, right? And it's like they're trying to do that very slowly. So it's a media game to me right now. But I'm staking against it.
It's fake news.
It's fake news.
The principles behind Numerai, what you guys are doing there, could that be applied? Like if you were in charge of a fund or you were doing this request for startups where you wanted people to build things related to it, where else do you think it could apply? Sort of applications that you built or your specific use case, but where else could it work?
Are you doing grants?
Yeah, we're doing this grants program where we're giving away some money for people to build on top of the protocol. And we've had some interesting ones. Some of them are like kind of natural, like crypto predictions. Like, let's do crypto predictions and not just stock predictions. And maybe you could make a special user experience for that.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Why?
That's so. It's just like it's a good idea, but it's it's like trying to get that information is interesting. There's not that much historical information to be trading on,
and there's no insider trading on crypto. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's actually, by the way, kids out there, a good reason not to trade crypto because you're playing against insiders and you don't know as much as you think.
Could you build a management consultancy that takes a company's P&L over X years and comes up with meaningful output without knowing the identity of the company?
Build a management consultancy.
Yeah, it takes company's P&L. So what you guys do with Numerai, takes the P&L, takes it out to data scientists who analyzes it and sends it back.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I mean, what's really good about other people say, you know, what could you do like Numerai, but for other applications?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh, okay. Not Erasure for X. Yeah, like people think, you know, could we give out health care data or any other kind of data and have people model it and have an edge? I don't think you could. Actually, I think it's uniquely good for the stock market because I'll tell you why. If you have some kind of cancer detection image software, machine learning thing, and you can get 80% accurate, to go to 85 doesn't matter because the big problem is actually getting the model installed and with all the doctors and stuff. It's actually like a business development problem. Whereas if you can go from like a 51% edge on the stock market to a 52% edge, you can immediately make money. There is no business development to stop you from trading. So the small edges in the stock market matter a lot, whereas in other industries, they don't matter as much.
Do you think CryptoKitties has staying power?
Oh my god, Numerai for CryptoKitties? Sounds like my house.
Or some version of CryptoKitties?
I don't know. I think they did a very good job building the application, and I think there is something to be said about. I can imagine playing video games and having my sword that I won in one video game be something I can use in another video game and have it have actual value because I could see on the blockchain how many swords existed. So I could see that kind of thing happening, but I don't know. I don't know about games. I mean.
Can we ask Richard some more personal questions?
Yes, please.
Richard, how long have you been in San Francisco?
Over 4 years.
Now, how has San Francisco and the tech community changed in the last 4 years to you? Are you long or short San Francisco tech scene?
I don't know. I don't know if it's me or not. You know, like, do you remember when we had the smoke everywhere?
Yeah.
And we had like the whole city covered in smoke, and I was like wondering, you know, is this the end? Yeah.
Oh, you mean the wildfires?
Yeah.
I was thinking like a fog machine. I was like, okay.
The wildfires. And it was just like, at that time, I remember feeling like, oh man, I'm so bored of being here and, you know, there's smoke everywhere. And then I was like, maybe it's just inside me. Like, if I had arrived in SF on that day, I'd be like, wow, this is so cool. Can't breathe, but it's so cool here.
But you think like the quality of startups and people that you meet is going up or going down?
I think it's going down, but I think it's going down badly a lot, but I don't know if it's just my lens on things. It's very hard to get excited about, someone's new startup idea when you've seen, the crypto crash.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's just the resolution after having so much time here that you have a greater resolution into what's happening. Erik, are you long or short this San Francisco tech scene?
It's a good question. I personally am really excited about, I don't resonate with the reasons why people are unexcited about it. Like homeless people don't bother me. Lots of things that don't bother me about the city. In terms of, these things tend to become self-fulfilling in some way. I think I'm long San Francisco and long, also like it being easier to build outside of San Francisco too, but the company town thing, I'm pretty long San Francisco. But I'm long what Balaji's doing too. Like I'm long people who want to start new cities as well.
We should start a city.
Yeah.
Numerai, but for cities. I'm just kidding.
Are you long or short?
Oh, I'm so short from San Francisco. I think it was John. I can't steal this quote because I think it was actually John Backus who said this, but it was a quote that was like, if you've watched Survivor for 20 seasons, eventually you know how to like play the game. And it's just like how many kind of university CS dropouts who like go through YC before it's like that's just like normal now. So to actually have like, what's the new counterculture? Like it's a question I keep asking myself. Like, how do you actually differentiate from that? And the problem is there's just so much money. So you have this kind of these startups doing very incremental software tooling, on like per products. Like I don't get excited by a startup incubator projects anymore. And I used to, a bit. And also you just don't, it's hard here to do real deep tech, like hardware, bio, like they don't have that in San Francisco. South Bay is cool. Everyone should just come to South Bay. That's one of the reasons why I like Numerai, because when I first met Richard, I was like, oh shit, like he's doing something cool. He's like taking on the entire hedge fund industry and like building a new model. But I feel like a lot of the startups you see now aren't doing new models. They're just tweaking on a previously existing model. And it's hard for me to get excited about that. Are there any finance startups that you find interesting? Oh, God. Fintech, Richard. What's cool in fintech?
Actually, I remember when I first pitched Numerai in San Francisco, I gave this really long pitch. It was very detailed, and it was talking about machine learning and AI and the future. And the investor I met just said, "Oh, so it's like fintech." And I didn't realize that all I had to do at that time was just say fintech to raise money. But yeah, I don't know. I don't follow, actually. I used to maybe follow things, but I don't follow very many things. I am interested in Augur. That's one that I invested in.
When is Augur really going to take off? Or like what needs to be shared for it?
I think last time I was with Joey, I'm not sure he would mind me saying this, but he said something like it's currently like 1,000 times too slow.
Richard, what do you think of San Francisco political views?
Well, actually, I only meet people who have kind of like right-leaning politics.
That's because they all do. They just pretend that they don't.
Yeah, that's partly because I meet a lot of people through you. But yeah, politics, became very interesting after Trump. It was really not interesting, and it's people you say it's in a sort of terrible place, but it's actually in a place where probably the public's thinking about it more than they used to, and thinking about what kind of future they want.
One of the things I noticed, and I think this is applicable to the both of us, is that actually I noticed that people who are here immigrant, like people who didn't grow up here, often are slightly more right of center than the people who are here. And I think it's actually interesting because it's almost like we came here with an idea of what the American thing was, and then we're like defensive of it. Because
exactly.
we chose to come here, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's right. I remember feeling, when I first came to college in the US, feeling like, oh wow, there's very few people who are capitalists, very few people who are interested in entrepreneurship, and I thought that's what I was coming into, a place where everybody was like into that.
Why did San Francisco become? Well, you said two things interesting. One, that a lot of people are right, but secretly. Why is that? I guess because they get shamed for being so. How did San Francisco become so left?
I don't know how it became so left, but I feel like you have this preference falsification issue where if some more big people came out that publicly with their views and were confident in it, you'd have this like cascade of people admitting it. But the problem is that we've built this narrative that we should be so scared of that. It's so smart to make it scary to have a certain political view. You make it so scary to be publicly associated with that everyone just hides it. And like, at least in my case, I'm slightly lucky because like I'm a fluffy blonde female. So everyone's like, well, she's slightly right of center, but that's cute. But I feel bad for like most of my male friends because they just can't, they, especially people who run companies and stuff. It's hard. People are very emotional about American politics right now. So you're actually, attacking a person. They haven't separated their political views from their personhood anymore. It's like the person is political, and it's like you start saying stuff, and it's become very, very emotive. So it's a difficult place to be right now, I think.
Well, it's interesting. You were talking about long short San Francisco. The question is sort of what time frame, right? Like, are you short Stanford or Harvard? Like, yeah, but in the next like 200 years or something. So I would say these now it's sort of like. Microsoft, right? You can short Microsoft, but, for the next 30 years, whatever, it's still going to have power. And I think Harvard, Stanford, even San Francisco, short eventually, but the question is it for a few hundred years? Is it 50 years? Is it less, more?
Oh my God, I think they're already fucked. I'm so nervous.
But you're ahead of your time.
Yes, it's true. I should start a hedge fund.
Yeah. We buy and sell universities?
Yeah. It's just like, the edge is just me. Yeah, I don't know. I think the old guard is dying down. And I think that's one of the things that's available to the use case of Erasure. The more information is freely available, the less like the kind of like hidden elite stuff that was like before not well understood becomes more and more available because more information is being shared more freely. So people start to understand that lots of universities are a scam. They start to, like, the thing about everything being a scam is starting to break away because everyone can start getting resolution into it because information is more free. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm long on Erasure, because like I want more information so I can have greater resolution into the world. And like that is actually just good for the world as a whole. You should make me an advisor.
Resolution is a good word.
Resolution.
Yeah. I think even this, podcast, it's like, I think if there were just a few media players in San Francisco, it would be hard and they all had a positive, optimistic, left-leaning slant on life, it really would be, it would change the way people think. But now we get to believe whatever we want to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Ethereum was working, how much of of the shift to Bitcoin is sort of ideologically driven, stakes, etc., versus just function of, hey, Bitcoin's working on its value prop?
Well, I think Ethereum is working. I think, there are applications like Augur, which maybe are 1,000 times too slow, but Erasure, everything about Erasure works very well today. To stake something and have the ability to grief the stake is something you can do and have been able to do on Ethereum for a long time. So I do think that some applications of Ethereum are working, and I think that those ones will succeed. But in terms of, and then Bitcoin, I don't know if it's living up to its value prop in terms of the transaction speed either, right? It's still much slower, right?
Do you think there could be something that comes that will just win in the space, like something else that will come eventually?
I do think that that's underrated, the possibility of that.
Well, I feel like Bitcoin's positioned where any actual use case is sort of extra. Digital coin, digital gold is enough. That's $10 trillion already achieved, basically. And so any other usage is sort of spun as like gravy or extra.
Yeah.
Ethereum doesn't have that base case.
I think that's a good point. I think, it's great that Bitcoin has appreciated in value. Like that is kind of proving it in some way. I also think like that might be enough. And if you had, I remember telling one of my friends, Olaf, who started Polychain, I was like getting excited about blockchain back in 2016 or 17 and saying, even if the only thing that works is stable coins, that's all that blockchain gives us, then that would be so amazing and so destabilizing and so interesting.
You mean just as a store of value?
Just what would happen if you could do that? If basically anyone at any time could just be like, you know what? I'm going to take some money and I'm going to put it in this thing that's stable. And I'm going to be immune to inflation, kind of, and volatility. And that's like, a lot of people should do that. Like if you take sort of like from a portfolio allocation perspective, the average American has too few DAI. Let's say DAI is a perfectly good stablecoin for argument's sake. The average American has too few DAI because it's such a good kind of insurance policy against wealth confiscation by the government or whatever. And so right now, everyone is underweight DAI. I don't think you can say everyone's underweight Bitcoin because it's speculative and volatile, and maybe that doesn't suit everybody's portfolio.
Well, DAI is fintech. You think that's cool? Think DAI is cool?
I think it's cool, yeah. I do. And I don't know. I don't think it's like gonna be, I don't think it's safe as people might think. You can make very unvolatile things in the stock market by just selling insurance and then one day you get killed. So it could be something like that.
For people who want to follow more, you follow Riva on Twitter at Riva.
Tez. Oh, I wish I had at Riva, but at Riva Tez.
At Riva Tez. Richard, where can you point people who want to learn more about your work?
At Richard Craib.
Yes.
CRAIB.
And Numerai.
And at Numerai.
Thank you both so much for coming to this podcast. It's been a great episode.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
If you're an early stage entrepreneur, we'd love to hear from you. Please hit us up at villageglobal.vc/network catalyst.